Good morning or good evening, depending on whether you are watching this at brunch church or dinner church. I am Diane Nisley. I am a member here at Branch and Vine, and I also serve as a licensed clinical social worker at a group practice in Lancaster. I've been in that capacity at various places for a long time, probably longer than some of you have been born, since you've been born. Heather asked me today to begin with some questions, some things to think about as we consider a Jesus-centered posture for our mental health, our behavioral health. So I have a few questions that I'm going to look at and talk about that can help us get started in that direction. First one to think about is, what is a Jesus-centered posture when we think about our mental health? That's a very good question, and I always think about coming back to centering on Jesus. And if we read through the New Testament, we see his character, we see his life story. I think the amazing thing about Jesus is to see how he experienced feelings. He experienced frustration. He experienced agitation. He experienced grief. And he expressed these because those words are used, especially in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark. And I think the amazing thing is he expressed them. He felt free to express them, but they did not rule what he did. He still chose to follow his Father. He still chose to do the things that he was called to do. And I think that's really key for us in this time that we live in, that we are attending to our emotions, we are expressing them, but we're not letting them be the boss. And I think that's always important. You don't want to ignore them and pretend they're not there, because then they pop out somewhere else. But you want to attend to them, but you also know that you're more than just your feelings, and you're more than just your thoughts. I think the way Jesus modeled how to handle the pressure from other people, he also took time to go away when the pressure got too much. And he just slipped away by himself. And I know that's sometimes challenging for us in the places we are, but it's so important to just, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if you're a busy mom or you're busy at work and you just take a couple minutes to slip into the bathroom or just to step outside and go for a walk or take a breath, those are important pauses in our life, and we certainly see them in the life of our Lord. The next question that Heather mentioned is, what might be some signs within a person's life that seeking professional counseling and therapy would be a helpful next step? Certainly we all feel anxious at times. We have a part of our brain called our amygdala, and its job is to protect us. So if we hear a loud bang or we hear a lot something suddenly happens, our brain goes on alert and we're ready to either freeze like a rabbit or run or fight. And that's a normal response. And so we normally feel anxious, like I felt a little anxious today coming in thinking, oh my, what's gonna happen? What am I gonna say? That's a very normal reaction. When anxiety or depression or flashbacks from trauma, when they begin to hinder our daily life, when we can't function, when we're not eating well, when we're not sleeping well for a long period of time, if it's a kid, if they're refusing to go to school, if those memories from past trauma are like rattling your present, then it's probably time to talk to someone else, to talk to someone outside the situation who may have some insights for you. But you want to everybody goes through some down times, or sometimes when you're more anxious, or times when you're grieving something, a loss of a person, a loss of health, a loss of a situation or relationship. Everybody goes through those times. It's nice to have a friend. It's nice to pray during those times. But if you get stuck and you can't do the things you normally do, or of course if you're feeling like you're going to harm yourself or harm someone else, then you know it's time, okay? But if you're getting stuck and it's hindering your daily life routine, it's time to talk to someone else. And then Heather has the next question as, for people who have never talked to a counselor or a therapist, what could a person potentially expect in their first session? A therapist's job is not to fix you. A therapist's job is to help you be able to listen to yourself, and if you're a Christian, to what God may be saying to you or how he may be guiding you at this time. I always think when someone comes into my office, I'm asking them lots of questions, not because I'm nosy, but because I'm trying to get a picture of what their life is like. I kind of like to see it like a book. Each person brings their book in. And so we think about what were the chapters that happened before. And we think about what are the chapters they hope to have in the future. And then we think about what's happening right now. And so how did the things in the past maybe influence? Is there anything back there that we need to talk about or address or forgive or look at more closely? How do patterns get stuck? And then what are their goals and dreams? What are the things in their life that they're hoping for? What are those parts of your life that give you joy? So a therapist or counselor will ask you lots of questions. And that can be a little intimidating sometimes, because you're kind of opening up packages that you kind of wanted to keep the lids on. But the therapist is doing it for a reason, and it's also kind of like when you have a sore on your arm and you have to take the Band-Aid off to clean it and to put more medicine on. So there's a purpose, and they're not just doing it to be nosy. And as a good therapist, also make sure you're good and you have that Band-Aid on well before you walk out the door. Helps you understand and identify what it is that you need to work on. Is it something physical? Is it something mental that you're thinking that maybe you need to change? Is it a way to let your emotions out more? I always like to think about all the different levels of who we are, mind and body and spirit and soul, and being able to attend to all those places in our lives. What is God wanting us to do to become more healthy? Maybe I'm overworking. Maybe I need to stop and pause. So I hope that gives you an idea of what therapy is like. The final question that Heather has written here for us today is, in the midst of the ongoing pandemic, upcoming holidays, and the start of winter, what are some healthy steps or boundaries for people to take as an individual or family? This has been a challenging time, hasn't it? We didn't expect this was going to happen. But I was thinking as I was coming in today, God is not up there wringing his hand saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to do about the pandemic and COVID and all that? He knew it was going to happen. He knew we were going to go through this. He knew we were going to experience these challenges. We have to trust that he's also going to use this for good things to happen. I know there's a lot of awful things that have happened, but there's also, we have to believe that his will is going to be accomplished and that his kingdom is going to come despite COVID, okay? You can think about a couple things. One, sometimes it's helpful to write down the things that you've lost and the things that you're sad about and the things that you're grieving, things that you couldn't get to do, things that you are anxious about that you don't know. Are we going to have school this week? Is there going to be another surge? And then there's also the craziness of people being very adamant about masks or vaccinations or finding other things or accusing people. There's a lot of things that are out of our control. So you want to come back to think about, what can you control? You can control where you focus your mind. You can control what you listen to. You can control your attitude. There's a lot of things you can. So you want to think about, what can I do and what can I think about? I would suggest that you try to limit how much information about the pandemic, about people's attitudes, about people's opinions on things, because it just tends to agitate. I know we want to control, I know we want to think about what we can control, but those things are just people's opinions and they don't give us peace. That's what you want to come back to. What gives you peace at this time? What kind of things can you do? And I would really encourage people to get out in nature, because nature is very calming and soothing. That's a great, and it also reminds us of our Creator. It gets us paying attention to details that we can't control. When we see a leaf falling to the ground, that's just a beautiful thing, and we didn't make it happen unless we pulled it off the tree. So there's lots of things out there, lots of places of beauty that calm our souls and calm our minds and calm our bodies. I would also encourage you to think about finding a way to meditate, even if it's just like a moment. Again, if you're catching a moment in the bathroom or outside, just to be able to breathe. There's a lot of relaxation that just happens when we take that big breath and hold it and then let it out. It automatically begins to calm our bodies, our spirits, our minds. If you do that like 3 or 4 times, that just begins to let some of that stress that we're carrying out. I would also encourage you to kind of be sure that you're listening to some good music, some good things that's just calming, and even to make sure that you're spending time, like just even if it's just a couple verses, just spending time to see what's God saying, what's His words to you. We have a lot of words coming at us from all different kind of places. So it's really good to pause and think, what is God saying to me? What is my Lord saying to me that I need to hear today? So I would really encourage you to do that. And then to pray, like if you're worried about something, pause in your day and be like, okay, God, I'm worried about this. I don't know what to do. Or even if you do know what to do, like asking God to bless your day, to guide your decisions, because that gives you a pause for a couple different things. It helps you realize you're not ultimately in control. We like to think we are. You're not ultimately in control, and it also gives pause for your mind to problem solve and to think of some other ideas. So again, I would just encourage you to control what you can, release the things that you can't, spend time in nature to renew your spirit and your soul, connect with friends and loved ones who care about you. Don't get carried away by social media. Spend time listening to your Creator, because He loves you, and He really does love you. It's amazing. So I am away right now as you are watching this, but I usually attend dinner church, and I'd be happy if you want to talk to me. I won't be your therapist, don't worry. But if there's any questions or things that I can be helpful with, just let me know. Thank you.